Welcome to Origin Remember Your Truth, a podcast for everyone who senses there's more than meets the eye. I'm your host, Anne Hochwald, and I'm really excited that you're here again. Together we explore what lies beneath conditioning, roles, and learned identities through perception, energy, intuition, and lived experience. This is your invitation to remember your inner truth and original frequency. Everything here is for you to feel what's true for you. Take whatever resonates and throw out the rest. On today's episode, we'll be talking about our connection with nature. We keep trying to heal ourselves with techniques, but maybe the real medicine is remembering that we're not separate from nature. We are nature, and our body is still just waiting to return to its original rhythm. So let's dive right in. There's something slightly absurd about the way we talk about nature. We say we're going into nature as if it's a destination or a hobby or somewhere outside of real life, but nature isn't outside of real life. Nature is your pulse, it's your breath, it's the electrical rhythm running through your nervous system right now. And somehow we've started living as if nature is optional. And we live on concrete, we stare at artificial light most of the day. We override winter in ourselves, looking at the seasons, and try to stay in a kind of permanent summer, being productive and expanding all the time. And then we wonder why we feel dysregulated and anxious, disconnected, or numb. And here's the uncomfortable truth. We didn't leave nature. We dissociated from it. I mean, your body still speaks in seasons. We have seasonal bodies. Your organs, they are connected to different elements, and your brain also responds to the Earth's pulse. And there's a frequency the Earth emits around 7.83 hertz. It's called the Schumann resonance. I'll go into that later. And interestingly, that's right where our brain shifts into a relaxed meditative state. So when you lie on the ground, when you lean against a tree long enough, or when you let your breath just slow down in a forest, you're reconnecting with nature. It's not about being spiritual, whatever spiritual is in your definition. It's a biological response and necessity. So today I also want to talk about not reconnecting with nature as a concept, but really as a nervous system reset through the lens of the elements in traditional Chinese medicine, and also through the simple act of touching the earth or nature, because we are a part of nature. Essentially, I almost see it like as we are a part of nature. We're in nature, but we're a part of it. It's like cutting off a limb, and this picture may be weird, but almost like then encasing that limb in metal or something and pretending like it's a different part, but we're just a part of nature. And looking at what humans have built into nature, no longer going with the natural rhythms, it's so weird and abstract, really. I mean, we're overriding so many different rhythms, the circadian rhythm. So, looking at when the sun rises and sets, goes down, of course, shift work. And we need people doing shift work, but it is not natural. Or seasonal rhythms, what I mentioned before, that we're in this perpetual summer phase of always producing and radiating, being out there, somehow skipping winter when we regenerate, recover. I will be looking at the circadian rhythm or the sleep rhythm like never sleeping, just working 24 hours per day and not getting rest. And these rhythms, yeah, they're also seasonal. They're not just daily rhythms, but seasonal rhythms and emotional rhythms, which then are on a very individual level. When you're going through a sad period and it's normal because that's life, things happen, things change. And if we constantly skip these parts of nature essentially, then we're skipping very normal and essential parts also of healing and just integrating. Now, everyday life might not present the option to immediately feel a feeling, but generally speaking, you can take the time at some point and just acknowledging already that we have emotional rhythms, and maybe you're going through a very motivational phase or maybe a less energetic phase, a bit more mellow, and also going with the flow without losing yourself in a state of depression or going into the role of being the victim. But even then, acknowledging that is still fine. We just keep pretending that it's not. And today's episode, why am I even recording this episode? Well, I've been told by my guides already for, I think, after a couple of days after I started this podcast, I've been told to record this episode, but kept delaying it, which is not that easy actually, if your guides are quite active and they keep telling you, okay, talk about that. And you're like, yeah, I'll do it eventually. Well, now here we are. The way we live and interact with nature or in Western culture, and I'm not excluding myself from that, is very far away, for example, from how traditional Chinese medicine or Eastern traditions see life and how we are connected to nature. Because, for example, in traditional Chinese medicine, humans are really seen as a microcosm of nature. And there you have 5 elements, and these elements are linked to different organs and also different seasons and therefore emotions and areas of life. So you have these 5 elements: wood, fire, earth, metal, and water. And wood, for example, is linked to the liver, the season of spring and growth, and combined then with the emotion of anger. So if you constantly repress anger, that might show in your liver. Actually, a lot of people have elevated liver values. Might, no cause effect here, what I'm saying, um, be related to repressing anger and emotions. And yeah, the next element after wood would be fire, which is connected to the heart, and summer, joy and expansion. These 2 elements are the ones, or these 2 seasons, the ones that in Western culture we mostly cultivate. Following that, you have the element of earth, which is connected to your spleen, and more of late summer, a nourishing time, a time to center yourself. The centering, this grounding is something we don't do that often. Not everyone, of course, but I also admit it's not always easy if you live in a large city and there's traffic, everything is full of concrete, you have few parks, and even those parks, they seem artificial. And yeah, disconnection there is very strong. But that doesn't mean that you cannot connect to nature or ground yourself wherever you're living right now. If you don't have a garden or access to a forest or something, whatever it is, find that park or even just small patch of green and really take off your shoes for 5 minutes, really stand there barefoot, to ground yourself, to connect. And if you're somewhat sensitive to energy, or also you want to cultivate that and practice that, you can feel the current of the earth moving through you when you connect that way. Like, I was in the forest last week, and yeah, it was pretty strong there. The message that I got, that I was supposed to record this episode, and yet I didn't. Went for a different episode. But nature was really calling me. So at some point I felt like, oh, I'm just gonna run up the hill, completely out of breath when I was up on top of the hill, and I had this strong urge to touch a tree and to connect with that tree. And that was amazing because my pulse was, I mean, I don't measure my pulse. I don't have a watch that can do that for specific reasons. For me, it's not good to be comparing myself with these values. So I guess my pulse was pretty high, and I touched that tree, and immediately my pulse went down very quickly. And I think that my pulse went down a lot more quickly than it would have without being in that forest, without touching that tree, because I really felt like I was tuning into that tree and adapting to its frequency, really. And that had a very regulating and calming effect. And I wasn't out of breath within seconds anymore. And these are things you can do almost anywhere. Even if you're living in a big, large city, they plant trees there as well. Even if it's a small tree, it's still a part of nature, as you are. So try to connect with that. And I see that I've deviated a bit from explaining the 5 elements. So after earth, you have the element of metal, which is connected to your lungs, and the season of autumn. And lungs are also seen as connected to grief, to sadness, and to boundaries. Another essential part that in modern culture is often overlooked. We don't set them properly. So if you skip also the natural process of autumn, at the season of autumn, looking at nature, you kind of skip grief processing and, yeah, skipping any kinds of emotions. Energy is never destroyed. You can only transmute it into something else. So if you're not processing it, it's there. It's gonna stay and maybe turn into something else or manifest physically. Yeah, and the last element, you have water, which is linked to the kidneys and winter, and fear. Maybe wherever you are in life, fear could be linked with your kidneys or even kidney issues. And the winter phase is essentially for rest. It's a phase to rest. Like I said earlier, with the sleep rhythm, if you if you always skip sleep, well, something will be out of balance. You will be out of balance with nature. And nature is up and down. Nature isn't the same all year round. Of course, there are different climatic zones, and you have more or less of a change there. But even if you're in the tropics, then you'll have more of a daily rhythm than a seasonal rhythm or rainy periods. There's always a balance. And a question for you is also, what season are you in right now? And are you allowing that season? Because you don't necessarily, even if it might be winter or spring, have to be in that physical season of winter or spring. Really check in with yourself, because, like I said, there are different kinds of seasons, so emotional seasons. And yeah, the awareness already is such a tremendous step towards reconnecting, because if you're not even aware of living kind of against the natural rhythm, then how do you change it? And even if you realize now, oh, I'm completely out of sync, that's totally fine. Can be mild with yourself, cut yourself some slack. It's okay. You're already realizing it, and you have your whole lifetime to get back in sync slowly at your own pace. That is also natural. Not to push it, get there as quickly as possible. Nature doesn't rush and go from winter to summer in one day. Okay, depending on where you live, sometimes it feels like, what? It was winter last week and now it's 25 degrees more than it was last week. But those are maybe meteorological abnormalities. And yeah, some places really have short transition seasons. Let's put it that way. If your transition season is short, naturally, great. Just let it take its course, however long it is. So what I was saying earlier, when touching that tree, there are different layers to that because, yeah, for one, it has an effect on your nervous system because nature really reduces that sympathetic dominance, that fight or flight mode that we are in most of the times. And looking at a tree or a tree bark, just this organic fractal pattern, it can calm the brain down. Also, when being in a forest, you have this kind of sensory recalibration because we evolved for feeling wind and seeing leaves, hear them rustling in the wind, hear the birds chirping, or whatever birds do. We didn't evolve to hear traffic and honking and seeing screens all day and straight lines. Yes, there is a kind of geometry and almost, yeah, sacred geometry. Yeah, I think that'll be another episode. In nature, patterns that keep recurring, but the way we structure it is not what we evolved for. And then again, when touching a tree or just the ground, the soil, you have also kind of electrical grounding. And there is emerging research on that it lowers inflammation and cortisol. And looking at that electrical grounding or the electromagnetic field, the Earth really has a base frequency, almost like you could say the Earth's pulse. And it's called the Schumann resonance. So the Schumann resonance is at about 7.83 hertz. It shifts a bit, but mostly that is its resonance. And we have different brainwave frequencies, different states. And this resonance is just between the theta brainwaves, which are at 4 to 8 hertz, and the alpha brainwaves at 8 to 12 hertz. And these states are like the transition between relaxation and intuition and parasympathetic regulation. So being on soil and in the forest or near water, you're kind of getting into nervous system coherence. So there's no magic behind that. It's just regulation. And just to give you an overview of the different brain waves, so there are 5 different states: delta, theta, alpha, beta, and gamma. So you have the delta waves between 0 and 4 hertz, which is essentially deep rest. So a deep dreamless sleep for full restoration. That would be a delta wave. It's where your body really does deep healing on itself and is deeply essential because without that, you might face chronic fatigue or mood instability. Theta waves you find from 4 to 8 hertz, and they encompass dreaming or intuition. So it's kind of between the conscious and subconscious state. And these waves are associated with creativity or memory integration and emotional processing. You're in that state when right before you fall asleep or after you wake up or during deep breath work or trance states. So this is at the limit of the Earth's resonance. And then next you have the alpha waves from 8 to 12 hertz, which is a relaxed state, but you are awake. So that's where you have parasympathetic regulation. So just to give you an overview of sympathetic, parasympathetic, sympathetic is the fight or flight mode. So adrenaline will go up and processes like digestion will not get as much attention because they are not essential to surviving. Those processes get attention by the body when you're in the parasympathetic state and you're calm, you're present. So alpha waves really are the sweet spot for being in nature, slowing down your breath, being in a creative flow, just having this calm clarity. So you're kind of alert, but not stressed out. Forests, looking at water, or just other rhythmic natural patterns, they tend to really increase alpha activity. It's when you could say alpha is when your nervous system feels safe enough to soften. And then after that, you still have the beta waves, which are from 12 to 30 hertz. They're really that active thinking state, problem solving, task oriented mode. So beta isn't bad at all. We need it to function. But being in high beta, that's where stress and anxiety might kick in, or hypervigilance. And modern society almost pushes us into this chronic high beta state where, we have all the notifications on our phone, the artificial light. We're trying to multitask, which you cannot really do. You can quickly switch between tasks, but we can't really multitask. And that just leads to a constant cognitive overload. And being in high beta for too long, you're kind of in this cortisol loop. And linking back to what I said about the seasons, it's almost like being in permanent summer as a mental state, which, following the natural flow of seasons, isn't ideal. And then just for completing this overview, you still have the gamma waves, which are about 30 to 100 plus hertz. And that is really a high level integration state of peak cognition where, certain meditations can get you there, like compassion meditations. And it's quite fascinating because these gamma waves, in long-term meditators, they saw in studies that they increased coherence. So multiple brain regions were synchronizing and information could be integrated rapidly. It's almost like in gamma, you could say it's an orchestra playing in harmony. So it's not stress at all, but a heightened awareness, so to say. If all the things about brainwaves interest you, I highly recommend you have a look at Dr. Joe Dispenza. There's a ton of stuff online for free that you can have a look into. He's really an expert on meditation and, furthermore, on the more scientific approach of looking at what happens in the brain during these states. And if you want to go deeper on that, really go for that guy. He's really good and he knows a lot and is very good at explaining everything. So connecting that back to nature tends to reduce the excessive high beta state and increase more of the alpha brain waves, which again encompass the the Earth's frequency and move us really from overdrive to a state of calm and regulation. That's why 20 minutes in the forest, it lowers cortisol. You feel better immediately, even though you didn't do anything, which is already step one to not do anything for once and not listen to a podcast when you're in a forest. I mean, great if you're listening to this podcast, but please, the next time you are in nature, don't listen to anything with the help of headphones or whatever, but just tune into nature. It can really feel trance-like. Also, watching waves or water, it feels calming. Just try maybe next time you go to a forest to sit under a tree with your back to the tree, and watch your breath while you do that and see how your breath automatically shifts. Or if you can, watch a sunrise or sunset without your phone. You don't need to post it on Instagram if you want to, whatever, do your thing. But maybe one of those sunrises or sunsets you just fully enjoy for yourself. Because if we go on social media now, that again is another thing for itself of increasing cortisol, stress, also almost forcing you to constantly compare yourself with people's highlight reels, not with real life, because most people use filters. They don't post 99% of what their life actually looks like, and it doesn't really serve you. Do you really feel better after that? Because when you're stressed out and instead of going into nature or just walking barefoot outside for a couple of minutes, you kind of increase the cortisol then when you do some doom scrolling or whatever you do. Maybe you don't, then that's great. And I'm also not saying don't use Instagram at all, but be attentive to how you use it, when you use it. Like, are you using it right now to numb yourself even more? Or do you, because you can, also set up Instagram in a way that it shows you less stressful things? I know an architect, and I believe her, finds Instagram quite calming to use it sometimes because she set up her algorithm in a way, and you can do that in the settings or by just the things that your algorithm shows you, your feed, saying this isn't relevant or whatever. You can set your algorithm up to show you certain things or not show you certain things. And for her, she basically sees pictures of buildings and just architecture, and that calms her down. She finds it very relaxing. And I believe her. If you keep that to a limited amount of time, great. Or if you find it inspirational. It's really a question of what are you watching and the awareness of how that serves you and what energy that brings into your life. So I got a bit sidetracked here, was talking about watching a sunrise just for yourself and seeing what happens in your body when you watch that sunrise. Just this being present is already something we skip most of the times. Maybe where you live, you can't watch the sunrise. You don't have to watch the sunrise. Maybe, I assume you have a window. At some point, you can see the stars and just watch those consciously for a couple of minutes. Or the moon, just to be present for a couple of minutes. And another step you could take would be to eat something seasonal. And now I am also guilty of that. I do not always eat seasonal foods. Mostly I buy things when they are in season, but certain vegetables and fruits, I admit, are not seasonal when I buy them. This does not mean that you should stop eating your favorite fruit in winter. What you can do, though, is to, at some point when it's the time of harvest, you then consciously consume, let it be a pumpkin or whatever it is that you like eating. that you feel like, yeah, I feel like eating that right now. Or when it's really cold and you feel like having a hot stew, go get that. So I really invite you to consciously see how you are connected to nature, where you put yourself on that scale. Because we keep looking for techniques, and healing may not, or healing may be remembering rhythm. Nature doesn't rush you, and seasons don't apologize. They're just there. That's it. That's the way it is. Like a thunderstorm. Okay, we have a thunderstorm right now. Are you going to argue with the thunder? It's the way it is. So I really invite you to reconnect with it if you're not already connected with it. To sit down, to touch the earth, to let the earth's frequency move through you, to really feel that energy within yourself and feel the subtle shift inside yourself of your nervous system adapting, your frequency adapting, and in general, to look at life more consciously of how you're living it, how you're connected. Because again, you're a part of nature. It's not some outside place. We are just a part. And somehow, as humans, we have built this idea around, oh, yeah, we'll build that a green city or this green eco project. When look at other species, they're just part of it. And of course, I'm not saying, okay, we move back into caves. We're only going to wear the nothing or the leaves and furs that we can gather from nature. Don't have to go to the extreme. But I think the awareness is important, and to maybe tone it down a bit, as much as we can accommodate in our life. Looking at the materials we use, less plastic. Also looking at sustainability. Do you need to buy that? Again, another new thing. Then looking at pollution. There are so many things I could go into right now, which I won't. But all these topics obviously are part of our connection with nature as well. And I don't know what this is coming up, but when you feel ill or something, to then also have a bit of a different perspective and look at, am I maybe out of sync? Instead of going for, oh, I have a headache, let's take that pill. And yeah, first seeing, am I out of sync? What's up emotionally? And then maybe not necessarily looking for the next pill to take, but looking more at the root. And yes, you can also support that with more natural methods. It might be a nourishing meal, or if you have that cough, to just really simple methods. Make coughing syrup with the help of an onion, because that has antibiotic properties, and you don't need to buy the sugary cough syrup with, I don't even know what's in that. Not saying that modern medicine or Western medicine should be avoided completely. Don't get me wrong there. It can be great. I mean, think of really severe acute injuries, like you're bleeding out. And Western medicine can do a lot, where traditional medicine, even if there are good, also natural remedies, they might not be quick enough or you don't have them at hand. So I'm not saying avoid doctors, but open yourself up to the fact that there is more than what Western medicine tells you. There are more options to go more natural and what maybe nature intended. Because somehow, if you look at it really from the outside, I don't see that nature intended for us to live in metal, concrete encased blocks, sucking up pills all day and staring at screens. It's just absurd. But looking at a large part of population, that's what many people do. So go out with an open perspective on everything, on nature, on the environment you live in. See maybe what you can change to make that environment more natural, or visit different places. Now I have to laugh because I said nature isn't visiting a place. You are part of nature. Okay, so returning yourself to the more natural parts of yourself in that way. Because, yeah, nature it's not something you reconnect to. It's also something you stop resisting because you're a part of it. Now looking at the natural rhythm of the light and seasons, the light is moving around at where I am recording this podcast. And if I don't finish up now, I will be blinded and have an even harder time of looking into the camera. I know for everyone watching the podcast on video, I could do a better job of looking into the camera, but bear with me. It will improve in the future. Work in progress. So, again, I really encourage you, if you have any questions or want to know more about certain topics, please let me know. Send me a DM, and I will put my contact data in the show notes, as always. If this episode resonated with you, really, follow, rate, leave a review, and if you feel like sharing it with someone, please do. That means the world to me and really helps this podcast to grow. Also, again, I invite you to give me feedback. I enjoy reading or hearing the feedback in whatever way you provide it. Because right now I'm talking to a microphone, looking at myself in the camera, and it can sometimes be a bit one-sided. So go for it. Any type of feedback is appreciated. I hope this touched you in some way, sparked a thought, or ideally a feeling. And may you move through your day with curiosity, awareness, and a little more of your own truth shining through. Go out, be part of nature. See you in the next episode.